mention is that I've heard from Duquesne Drew. I don't know if you guys know him, but he's
Yes.
the new president of Minnesota Public Radio.
Yes.
And
Wow.
they are looking for a managing editor for their newsroom, and he wants a person of color to be in the mix. So particularly anybody in public radio who might be thinking about another job, you can either reach out to me, or if you know him, you can reach out to him directly. But there's a job opening, and they really want diversity there. So.
Okay, good job, Richard.
Fred.
I'm on.
Oh man.
What's the matter? You can't hear us?
Can
Richard?
you hear us, Richard?
Yikes.
Richard,
He cannot.
he can't. Let me get him. He needs to he just needs to mute Facebook.
Well,
Oh, he
Chevron,
has to do one or the other.
Right.
Oh, he has to choose.
I got Facebook, Richard.
Oh my God.
Chevron, while you're doing that, I would just like to announce that this is Jason Mikolo
You what?
Johnson. I'd like to announce that I am
Yes.
continuing my national exhibition on yours now.
Yeah, I did hear you a minute ago.
Natural-
Everybody was talking at once. There
Beautiful
weren't
growth.
enough people muting them.
Okay, now he's, go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason.
I was saying that I'm continuing shooting a photography exhibition called Yours Naturally, Beauty That Grows on You. It's an exhibition about women with natural hair. And I did the first installment in 2015 at Savannah State University. And so while we have this lull in the schedule, I'm continuing to shoot it. I'm in Huntsville, Alabama this weekend.
Congratulations, Jason.
Thank you.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, we hear you.
Oh, okay. Hi, this is Benita Bing. I am the president of the Exposure Group, African American Photographers Association, and also the owner of the Talbert and Bing studios located here in Brooklyn, Northeast, DC. So if you need any headshots or any type of photography work done, we are available. Thank you very much.
Has everybody introduced themselves?
Yes.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. All right. Well, since everybody's introduced themselves, I will now ask Maureen Bunyan to make her presentation. Let me find Maureen on this thing here. Okay. Oh, there you are. Okay. Okay. All right. Go take it away.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Richard. I'm very happy to be with everybody today, and I'm happy to see everybody safe and sound. I wanted to help Richard celebrate his birthday.
Which is in a couple of weeks, by the way, not now.
In a couple of weeks already?
Right.
Okay. You don't look any older than you did a couple of weeks ago. Some of you may have been at a Journal-isms brunch in April of 2017. The brunch was held at Los Cuatros restaurant here in Washington, D.C. And Richard posted a photograph of the brunch, I believe on Journal-isms. A friend of mine saw the photograph and was inspired by it. This friend's name is Lola Porson. Lola is a fabulous, fabulous Haitian journalist. She also happens to be the wife of the former Haitian ambassador to Washington, Raymond Joseph. She and Ambassador Joseph have lived all over the United States, and they are both human rights activists on behalf of their native country, Haiti. Lola is, like so many marvelous Haitians, is an extraordinarily talented painter. And she's the daughter of one of the very, very important and influential Haitian artists. Lola and I have been friends for a long time. Lola saw the picture, the photograph of our session at Los Cuatros. The photograph was taken by George Dalton Talbot III. So George, I want you to pay attention to this. And Lola, I've asked Lola to join us today to share with you and to unveil the painting that she made of the Los Cuatros Journal-isms brunch gathering in April of 2017. I'd like to introduce you to Madame Poisson. Lola? Lola?
Move this back and see if I can.
Hello.
Hello, Lola.
Hi, Maureen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you, my dear.
Thank you for inviting me here today.
Oh, you're welcome.
Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Lola, would you
Yes,
tell
ma'am.
everybody a little bit about yourself, please?
About myself, what do I know? Well, I am a retired social worker, full-time artist, painting and writing for my first book, which is to be published either at the end of this year or beginning of next year. It's going to be a book about my dad's painting, my paintings, and issues about paintings, like when they are stealing your paintings, you know, wherever you put them, they are stealing them. All kind of issues, pricing, deciding what price to put, especially when we're selling to friends. Okay, so most of you, of course, the gentleman just said know why I'm here. So I'm going to unveil the painting for you. When I first saw that picture, I was so in love with it. And I have to congratulate the photographer. He did such a great job. And I said to myself, this has to be on my wall. And I started painting it. So I guess many of you are going to want to have it on your wall. So let me start by unveiling it. Can you do that for me? 1 second. Thank you. Let's see. Should I? We are trying to focus it. It's not sweet. I don't. It's good enough, I suppose. I really fell in love with this. Everybody is looking at the photographer. Everybody is looking at me like they know me. I really enjoyed painting this guy. Who is it?
That's Kenny Walker.
Kenny Walker, is he here?
I don't
No,
know.
I don't see Kenny. He might be on
Oh, he didn't
Facebook.
come to
I
I
don't know.
enjoyed painting him. And here's the last one I did. This guy is just himself from the picture. This one here.
Ah,
Almost everybody is. This lady and that one, they are really
there's
themselves.
Benita.
Yes.
Benita.
So,
In fact, Benita, I saw the narrative that I created. This was her first meeting with us.
Oh,
That was nice. I wonder if there's a way to make these boxes bigger so we can look. See
yeah, can we make it a little bit bigger? Is it big enough?
You can make it bigger if you just make her single on the speaker
Click
view.
on speaker view. Click
Change
on
the
speaker view.
Change
That's what I just tried to do, was to just
Oops, I
get
got
that
it.
one box. Can we get that one?
Richard, you can put it on speaker on the person, and it should show up big for everybody.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
good.
Let's see. Let's see.
You have to speak for them for it to be good.
Try it.
Are you seeing?
Okay.
There we
Ah,
go.
there it is.
I omitted a little, you know, the flyers that were here. I omitted the flyers. And I just have to make one correction because I wrote round table without
There we
the
go.
Ah,
Oh, they can do it now.
the spotlight video. Wow. That looks
Wow.
like us. It looks like us, all
Yes.
right.
It's beautiful in person.
And Richard, you're right in the middle.
Yeah, there I am. How about
That's
that?
him?
Yes.
That's Richard?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then
Allison Keys.
the lady with the hat on and the yellow dress.
Oh boy, the chic lady?
Yes, she's Carol Porter.
Carol
Yes.
Porter.
She's not with us today, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
They
And
may be on Facebook, though. They may be watching us on Facebook.
oh, good. I hope so.
Yeah.
She's the one who had designed the logo, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. Mhm. I didn't want to use the logo because it's her property, so I made a sort of a poster instead.
Okay.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
Um,
And Karen House, Allison Keys right there in the front. We see
Which one?
Caroline Brewer,
Oh, okay, I wasn't at that.
and various other people. I think Juliette Beverly's back there, and Colin Campbell, both from.
And I think
Washington
you see
chapter.
Jackie Jones also.
Oh, there's Jackie. Yes. Okay, and Lynn Adrian
And Lynn,
Next-
right next to Jackie.
next to Jackie,
Mhm.
and various other friends and colleagues. That's great.
And Lola,
Yes?
Wonderful.
why did this particular painting inspire you? Was it the coloring or the people or?
I think it's the whole thing. I just saw the picture. I didn't even see you in there, Maureen. It's after the second or third look that I realized you were there, and I read about it and see it was all the journalists, because I just saw the picture and I fell in love with it. It's the whole thing.
Well, perhaps you can be our painter chronicler of journalisms from now on. We have photographers, we have writers. Now we have a painter.
Exactly, that's great.
I would love doing it. I'm good at portrait. Usually when I do somebody's portrait, I'm afraid to say it. The portrait becomes more beautiful than the person.
Wow, that's wonderful.
Oh, well, you can do mine.
You can, I'm sure you got a lot of takers for that.
I just, it was mindset. I just did it for myself to put on the wall. But when I make individual pictures, that's true. I make them pretty. So if you're having a birthday for somebody, like if you want to give a gift to your wife, your husband, or somebody, get in touch with me.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you.
And where's Terry Shaw?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Can you hear me, Terry?
yeah, I can.
Okay. Well, I was looking back to see our narrative and the photos of this session. And this is the one where Terry said, "Oh, I've got to go to this group. Please let me in." And so I think you started with the next one.
I wanted to go, but I couldn't handle the stairs at Los Cuates.
Oh.
It's an upstairs room, like many, many restaurants. It had an upstairs room, so Zoom is a lot easier for me.
Ah, got it. Okay. Well, this is wonderful. I'm so glad you did this, and it was a nice surprise.
Richard,
yes.
Before you go, and before Lola goes, Lola, first of all, we want to send our regards to Ambassador Joseph. And I wanted everybody to know that Lola's husband, Ambassador Joseph, is a multifaceted, incredibly talented man. He was the he was the Haitian ambassador to the United States for 5 years, 2005 to 2010. Before that, he was chargé in the embassy, and he also had a career as a journalist. He was a writer for the Wall Street Journal for 14 years in the 1970s and 1980s, and he also ran for president of Haiti. And he also is the uncle of Wycliffe Jean.
Right.
So Lola has a very interesting family. And one quick thing I want to share with everybody before Lola goes, I hope you can see this. Lola, in addition to being a fabulous painter, also makes beautiful dolls. And years ago, she made this doll of me.
Oh, that's cute.
Handmade dolls. And Lola, thank you for making Mini Me.
Okay, okay.
And Mini Me, Mini Moi says thank you, merci.
It's a pleasure.
Bye-bye.
It has been a pleasure being here, and happy birthday to Richard.
Yes, yes, thank you very much. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. And everybody stay safe.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, let's give Lola our thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Lola. Okay. All right. Now, we're going to hear from Eric.
Let me get us.
And I promise, let me find him on this, so we can zoom in on him.
Oh, no, you don't want to do that. You don't want to zoom in on me. Can we get back that other picture and I'll just talk over that?
Well, actually, I need to find out how to go back to the whole room.
Well, so while you do that, I'll just talk and explain. I'll explain my my weird surroundings.
Oh, you can do that.
I'm actually at Disney Springs in Orlando because my girlfriend's daughter's birthday is today, and I forgot that we were coming here for her birthday. So I am talking to you from just outside the Tommy Bahamas. I can let you know how the pandemic is going. If you need any man on the street interviews, I'm right here. Oh boy, that was a mistake. Now that half the people watching it dropped off.
Not really. Okay, well, I promised folks that we would start off by talking about how this racial renaissance or reckoning and the COVID crisis are affecting what you do, or the people you watch and the people you are in contact with. In other words, the television industry. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to invite some people who, as guests or as attendees, who are actually in the television business. So take it away, please.
Yeah, so this is an interesting time. Of course, production has stopped, so no one is filming anything. But we're in an interesting situation where writers and producers are convening what they're calling virtual writers' rooms, where everyone's working from home, but they're working on scripts, they're planning out story arcs. And, you know, it was interesting. I'm doing this piece where I'm talking to a lot of Black and brown showrunners in television, and thankfully there's a lot more of them now than there were even 5 years ago. And you know, before George Floyd died, the question was, are you going to incorporate the pandemic in your show? Will you pretend it didn't happen? Will you pretend it happened a long time ago? Will you pretend it hasn't happened yet? How will you deal with it? And then once George Floyd happened, particularly for a lot of Black and brown showrunners, the question was, do I want to address this directly? Do I want to talk about how I'm feeling directly? And everyone, of course, has a different answer to that. And once production ramps up, hopefully, we will see the results of that. If I was a betting man, my money is on production not starting until September or October. I think there has to be a lot more testing available, and the testing has to be as reliable as possible. Now, Tyler Perry is supposedly undertaking something that I think will be a bit of a canary in the coal mine moment, where he's talking about resuming production for 2 of his shows on his 330-acre complex in Atlanta this month, and testing people at home 2 weeks before they're expected to show up, flying them to Atlanta, testing them again, and assuming they get negatives in all those tests, then they start work and they agree to stay on the complex and not interact outside the complex for something like a month and a half or something like that. And they'll be tested regularly to make sure that there's no outbreaks. If they actually do that, and you know, he announced that he was going to do this a while ago. If they actually do that, then that might be a blueprint for how other series could resume production, asking people to agree to, you know, live inside a community for a month and a half, 2 months, and they might be able to knock out, you know, 8 or 10 episodes of the show, depending on how quickly they work. They would just be focused on, of course, filming, and maybe save the post-production until after they film everything. So that's sort of where we are with the TV industry. In terms of what you're seeing now, it seems like the streamers were a little better prepared. They work a little further ahead. Netflix has said that they have enough new material to get through the year without changing anything. And I think if you've been watching Netflix, you've noticed they've been rolling out new material. They just dropped a Charlize Theron movie, and the new season of Umbrella Academy is coming up. They're not planning on delaying the fourth season of The Crown. They're going ahead as if nothing's really happened. HBO has shifted some of its bigger projects to later in the year. So they had a big Nicole Kidman limited series that was supposed to air as the summer was starting, and they moved it back to fall. Showtime's been doing the same thing. They've taken some of their marquee projects. They had a TV version of The Good Lord Bird that was supposed to air in August, and they moved it all the way back to October. So I think some of the prestige cable channels especially are trying to make sure they have enough material if production doesn't resume. And I think the networks are in the worst position. They don't have a lot of material saved up. And if you notice, the summer's pretty bare. And they've announced all these fall schedules, but they haven't. They've announced all these fall schedules, but they haven't said when they're going to start broadcasting. Actually, so I think everybody's waiting to get a sense of testing and when testing will be available widely and more reliably.
Richard, you need to mute.
So at any rate, that's sort of what I can say off the top of my head. If anybody has any questions or wants to hear about something else, just let me know.
Okay, well, I want to ask about the racial reckoning
Sure.
because everybody in America, it seems, or every organization is trying to do something, and especially the African Americans who work in these fields are making their demands and requests and all that. So how is this affecting the TV business? And if you know about the TV news business, let's talk about that too.
Yeah, I think what we are seeing in news is much more present and much more impactful and much more far-reaching than fictional programming, because we've seen people in news come under investigation or lose their jobs. ABC News has the situation with a woman there. The editor-in-chief of the Philadelphia Inquirer had to leave. New York Times lost its op-ed editor. So in news, I think we're seeing a much more active reaction, in part because news is fully operational. Everyone is still creating content. It's hard to tell what's going to happen in scripted television because so much of scripted television has stopped, and there is no filming. There are no production crews really active yet. There's you hear about a commercial shoot over here, or you hear about The Bold and the Beautiful, that soap opera started back production, but there's not a lot of work being done outside of the writers' rooms. So it's hard to know exactly what's going to happen. The sense that I'm getting is that there is a bit more appetite for Black-centered projects. There is a bit more of people looking at Black-centered projects that maybe hadn't gotten a lot of attention in the past and maybe elevating them. OWN's series David Makes Man won a Peabody this year. And so HBO Max is going to feature it on its streaming service, which is something that I don't think would have happened if it hadn't won a Peabody and we hadn't also had this moment where everybody's trying to figure out, how to look like they're behind the Black Lives Matter movement. 20s, this new series that Lena Waithe had created based on her life, was on BET, and I think was kind of rolling out, and people weren't paying much attention to it. But it is also going to be featured on a streaming service. I think it's going to Showtime's streaming service. So so there is a sense that people are taking a look at these projects, and they're taking a look at things that may be in the pipeline, and they might be more inclined to put them into production. But it's hard to tell whether this is just lip service or not until the industry really gets rolling again, and we get a sense of what's getting made, what's getting canceled, and what's getting featured, and what is getting put on the back burner.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll go to our attendees' questions. Whoever has a question, please speak up.
I've got a question for Eric. This is Max.
Sure.
Hey, Eric. I know when it came to sort of the response to this moment, a lot of PBS stations sort of went through this whole orgy of Black historical programming that really focused on the pain and suffering of Black folks. I'm just curious about your thoughts on that approach to sort of looking at the issues of race versus media that might profile the change that should be coming about as a result of the protest. I hope that question's clear.
Sort of. So you're wondering if we're going to see anything different besides the documentaries focused on Black pain? Is that what you're saying?
That's correct.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's sort of hard to know where we're going to go from this moment, because at the same time that all of this conversation is happening, the TV industry is ground to a halt and nobody's making anything. So once the TV industry picks up again, of course, they're going to start dealing with all the stuff that they paused before the pandemic. TV production sort of officially halted on March 13th, March 12th, March 13th. That was pretty much when all the big networks said, stop working and send everybody home. So the industry in some ways is kind of frozen in time in March. And there's been deals announced, and people are working on scripts, but there's this huge backlog of stuff that they have to start making again once they can start making it again. So I'm kind of skeptical that the energy of this moment is going to make it all the way to, September or October or November, when these shows have to sort of join their place in the line and start getting made. I mean, I'm happy that this energy's out there, and I think it's going to result in some great programming. But the same reason why I think everybody has jumped on this moment, because the pandemic has stopped things and people are sitting around and they're angry and they're frustrated and they're looking for an outlet for that, is the same reason why it's so hard to enact that feeling in new programming, because the industry stopped. Now, when you talk about news, I think we have much more of an opportunity because, news outlets are still cranking out material. We just saw Joyanne Reed get hired for 7 p.m. on MSNBC. She's the first Black woman to host a cable news show in prime time. They should have put her in that time slot a long time ago, but they finally did. So there is a sense that some of these channels that say that they care about Black viewers and Black issues are doing some things, but we'll have to keep an eye on that and just keep pressing them, because it's easy to put a Black Lives Matter banner on your Twitter page. It is much harder to make the executive producer of an important show a person of color, or hand an important slot in prime time to a person of color.
Okay.
Richard, I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yes, I'm wondering, Eric, what kind of pressure, or what kind of how do we communicate with the producers of Hollywood films as well as television through the pandemic to make sure that they don't forget about Black Lives Matter?
Well, I mean, the good thing about this moment is that I feel like consumers have never had more power than they have now. You can say something on your Twitter page, and you can include the Twitter handle of the showrunner or the director or the lead actor, and it's possible that person may actually see what you have to say, and it's possible that thousands of other people might retweet it or agree with what you're saying. So there's a lot of different avenues. I found, again, because of the pandemic, actors and some producers have a fair amount of time on their hands. so they're open to dialogue, and they're paying attention to their social media feeds. And you know what's happening right now, in tandem with all these other things that I talked about, is that one thing media executives are afraid of is becoming that show that everybody wants to cancel. They saw what happened to Cops. They saw what happened to Live PD. They've seen how people are reevaluating cop dramas. And so anything that gives them the sense that they might become the next show to get canceled makes them nervous and makes them want to listen. The executive producers of Survivor are meeting with two groups, at least two groups, maybe more, of Black people who had been on the show, alumni, who stepped forward just a couple of weeks ago to talk about how they feel like the show regularly stereotypes Black people and regularly makes it more difficult for them to win the game. And I don't think that would have happened before this moment, because they are used to shrugging people off and blowing people off if they don't agree with a criticism. And I talked to the people at CBS. I did a story about it. They are super nervous that these Black alums may figure out a way to marshal a bunch of people who are already upset at the show and try to get them canceled. So you have an opportunity to reach out to the people that are making these shows, to reach out to the networks, and work through NABJ, work through different organizations that can help. And change.org has been particularly effective, but there's lots of ways to make your opinion known.
And Eric, may I add also AFTRA, SAG-AFTRA,
Sure.
which of course represents Screen Actors Guild and American Federation of Television and Radio Artists. They're also looking at this very carefully. And Eric, is there a list, a directory of the major studios and the names of producers and owners, et cetera, that we could look at and communicate with?
Not really, because that's the kind of list that publicists put together and charge people to employ. IMDb Pro is a good way to, it costs a subscription fee, but once you pay that subscription fee, you can go to a movie and you can see everyone who's involved in the production. And if you click on, say, the director, you'll get a list of who all the things that person's done, and also who their agent is, who their manager is. You might get information on their production company, and you might get information on the company that hired them. So you'd have to do a little bit of detective work between IMDb Pro and Wikipedia. You can get a sense of who the people are at these organizations, and IMDb Pro will give you ways to contact them. There'll be phone numbers and email links and stuff like that. It looks like Ishmael has been wanting to talk for a while.
Eric, one more quick question. Who are the most important, who are the people who make the decisions that determine whether a show includes African-American artists, includes African-American technicians, includes African-American writers? Who makes those decisions?
Well, it's different depending on
it's
different depending on the organization, because an organization like CBS, for example, Les Moonves, when he was CEO of the company, was intimately involved with every aspect of the company. He was heavily involved in casting, and the people who were the entertainment president, and the person who was in charge of casting, they essentially knew their job was to enact his will and enact his taste. So in a case like CBS, before Les Moonves was forced to leave the company, you had to convince him. Now, they have a chief content officer. His name is David Nevins. He used to be president of Showtime. He has some influence. Kelly Call is the president of entertainment at CBS. He has some influence. And then the showrunner, the top executive producer, who is in charge of the entire production of a show, also makes some decisions. So it depends on what you're talking about. If you want a show that stars more, if you want a network to have more shows that star Black people, then you have to talk to the entertainment president, and you may have to talk to the person above that entertainment president, the person that's in charge of television for, the entire media conglomerate. What's happened is that all of these companies have become cogs in much bigger media companies. So it used to be you could just go to the president of entertainment at ABC and try to convince that person, and that person had autonomy to just do what they wanted. But now the president of entertainment at ABC has, I think, 3 other executives above them before you get to Bob Iger, the head of Disney. So, or well, Bob's sort of semi-retired, whoever that guy is who took his place. But so it's much more about, I think the way you achieve what you're talking about is to get to know the up and coming showrunners of color and the white showrunners who care about this stuff, right? So Gloria Calderon-Kellett, who's the showrunner for One Day at a Time, that reboot, she's Cuban-American and very clued into diversity issues, very much trying to convince other showrunners to do what she's done. Eric Wallace, Black man, who's executive producer and showrunner of The Flash, someone else who's very clued into these issues and is constantly trying to convince the CW and CBS to do better. Sean Ryan, the white guy who is a co-executive producer of SWAT. He also created The Shield. He's also someone who cares a lot about diversity. If you can reach out to these people and get them on your side, they're very powerful voices to convince the entertainment establishment to do better. And, to be honest, I do think they want to do better. It's just convincing them to take the bold swings that they have to take to really make a change. And there's still a little resistance in pockets of television to doing that. So you have to get allies on your side who will make that case.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ishmael's been trying to talk for a while. Can you get him in?
Ishmael.
Go ahead, Ishmael. Just unmute yourself. Can you do that?
All my life. Okay.
There you
Can
go.
you hear me
Good.
now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. There was a story July 6th in the New York Times about our movie, 2 hours and 40 minutes, that starts streaming on MUBI on Monday. 2 hours and 40 minutes, directed by the great Bill Gunn, all our money, ours producer. So I'd like to see people check that out. What is the fetish that the audiences have for Black pimps and prostitutes and Black boogeyman? We got this series called P-Town. You got this 400-pound Black guy who's supposed to be a Haitian character going around beating up everybody, murdering people. And then tonight you got P-Valley, or maybe it premiered last week. You got prostitutes and pimps. And then you got David Simon's whole stuff, prostitutes and pimps. Is this ever going to be written up in the New England Journal of Medicine by people like this stuff?
Well, I guess the short answer is people love outlaws. P-Valley debuts tonight on Stars, and it was based on a play that was written by a Black woman, and it's a drama that's set inside it's a drama that's set inside a strip club in the Mississippi Delta, and on the surface you could say, yeah, this is a show about strippers, but when you watch it, it's about much more than that, and the characters are much more evolved, and what she's trying to do is make a case for people paying attention to folks who are on the margins of society, because of their race, because of their gender, because of what they do to earn a living, because of their sexual orientation or their gender identity. And I think it's a pretty powerful argument for paying attention to people that we normally look down on or try to avoid. I mean, we
Why do we get
want,
so much? Why do
we
we get
want,
so much of this? Why do we get so much of this? I mean, Hollywood, you know, black women are prostitutes. I mean, if that's the message, why are they repeating it over and over again?
well, you know, I would say that Insecure on HBO is an example of a comedy about a black woman who, you know, works for an agency that tries to help kids and is living a regular life. You know, there's shows out there featuring black people where they are not these things. But you know, one of the most popular programs ever was The Sopranos, and it featured Italian American gangsters. You
Yeah,
know, people love outlaws.
Italian Americans hate that stuff. Italian Americans pick it as Godfather.
Some Italian Americans hate it. Some of them love it. You know, I covered that show, and I saw both of them. You know, for me, what I've always said is that if there is a creative reason for why a character is an outlaw, or for why a character, you know, is something that you might view as undesirable, then I want the artist to explore that. But if it seems gratuitous, if it's simply done as a plot device, or if you haven't earned the reason why that character is placed in that situation and you're placed in that world, then I would say, you know, that's a terrible depiction and it shouldn't be on the air. But I'm not going to tell um, people of color you can't write stories about black strippers. You can't write stories about black pimps. You can't write stories about black drug dealers. That's not how you achieve what we want to achieve.
Yeah,
You
well,
can't put handcuffs on artists.
well,
But you do have to make sure, you do have to require that they earn that.
this playwright is the same one who wrote this thing called Mountaintop, which defamed the reputation of Martin Luther King, had him engage in some kind of frivolous pillow fight on the eve of his assassination. So I think you have a very utopian, idealistic view about the motives of these guys who produce this stuff. I think they're just out for money.
Okay.
Of course they're just out for money. Of course they're just out for money. But I'm a critic, and what I review is the piece of work that's in front of me. You know, you know, if she wrote a play before P Valley that was terrible, well, okay. But I'm reviewing the TV show that she created, which I thought was really interesting and said some things that was worth paying attention to and should not be dismissed out of hand. And I think if we really want to make sure that there's great art on television featuring black people, we can't be knee jerk about saying, well, this show stars somebody who's a criminal. It can't be good. We just have to say we need more. We need more. Delroy Lindo is playing a great character on The Good Fight.
Can I get
an attorney?
Comment
so,
on
go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I wanted Leslie to.
Vanguard role that Netflix sees itself playing, and
okay, is Leslie Fields Cruz still there?
Yeah, I'm still here, but I can.
Like Bosch.
I think someone else is already talking, so I'll.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, who was just talking about Bosch?
Yeah, that was me. I said, wondering if you could comment on the Vanguard role that Netflix and Amazon.com, Amazon Video see themselves playing with programs like Bosch in terms of the writing, in terms of the representation, the supposed lack of stick figures in the representational view of people of color, especially black folk, but also Latino, Latinx people as well.
I don't know that Bosch is a great example of that, to be honest. It is.
Yeah, well,
yeah.
Why don't you describe it? I'm gonna mute myself here.
Yeah. So Bosch is a police drama that was based on a character from novels by Michael Harrison. Is his name? I can't fully remember his name. He lives in Tampa. I should be ashamed of myself, but at any rate, it's based on a character from novels, and you know, it's a gussied up version of a typical cop drama. They're allowed to curse, and the action is a little more explicit. this guy Bosch is sort of a hard-nosed detective on the Los Angeles police force. His partner is Haitian American, and they have had a really interesting storyline in the last season where he came in contact with someone who I think killed his father or killed a relative or something like that. And the person is in America and he's being shielded by the American government. But, this guy knows that he's up to no good and he's trying to arrest him on some crime. And that's an interesting subplot. And it's the first time that they've featured that character in a really significant way. He's been featured before. He's had subplots, but in this one, they fully gave him a B story that started at the beginning of the season and ran all the way to the end. But there are other, there's a Latina character that's significant, and the woman who runs the department where Bosch works is gay. But I do think that essentially it's your typical cop drama that lionizes the efforts of the police and downplays police brutality and the excesses of police. And, the criminals that they focus on that they think are guilty are generally guilty, and, that sort of thing. So I'm doing fine. Is there a problem? They're not going to be able to hear me if I have this. Yeah, I got you. Okay.
Okay, well, I wanted to hear from Leslie about how Black public media, how the people who work with that, how their approach differs from what we've been hearing about commercial television.
Well, because as I was listening, I'm like, okay, what is missing for me in terms of this conversation is, the independence. We work with a lot of independent Black filmmakers who are working in documentary. And so on one hand, what's happening with the pandemic right now, it has stopped some of the production. Filmmakers they're getting really creative. They're doing interviews using Zoom. They're finding ways to come together. But when you start talking about all of the new procedures and steps it's going to take in order to, to go out and film and shoot, you have to protect your crew and you have to protect the subjects, et cetera, et cetera. When I think about the independent film community and the independent media makers, the costs for them are going to go up exponentially, and they're already, trying to raise dollars on hitting up foundations, trying to speak to potential investors, going to, PBS and other networks, trying to cobble together enough money for their films. And so the pandemic and the impact of the pandemic is going to have on production for independents is really going to impact the content pipeline of the content that's coming from our independent filmmakers. But I'm also going to just also put this out there. Maybe this is a question for Eric, is that there is a lot of coverage of Hollywood, but there's so much other content that's being made. Our younger audiences are looking and watching content. They're not watching regular television. They're watching content, online, TikTok, Twitter store. I mean, they're consuming it in a very different way than we do. And we talked. You mentioned Issa Rae's outfit, and Issa Rae got her start online with Awkward Black Girl. And she had that series, it ran online, and then all of a sudden Hollywood took notice because it had, she had all of these people following her, and now she's able to create content, and I know she's got to deal with Netflix, et cetera, and that's all fine and dandy. But I think that at this point in time, there's an opportunity for us to focus on the work that's not necessarily coming out of Hollywood. That, I know that's where the money is, but if we're talking about trying to tell stories that are more expansive of the Black experience and the Black global experience, that's really not going to be, well, we're not going to find those stories in Hollywood. We're going to find those stories with the independents and with other smaller, subscription television like Kwele TV or Open TV, who are streaming content that covers the gamut of the Black experience. And and when you think about people who are working in the industry, there's a group called Brown Girls Doc Mafia, and they just launched a website, and it's a listing of all of these Black and brown women who are working in documentary. And so, you know, there are all of these other smaller organizations, you know, nonprofits, many of us who are out there trying to pull together resources, talent, to ensure that the variety of stories are made and seen. And I would actually like to have more of our critics cover this aspect of the field and these stories, and maybe not so much focus on Hollywood. So that's just I'm not sure, you know, if there's an answer or a question in there, but that's just what I wanted to weigh in on.
Okay.
Well, those are great. Those are great points. I would just point out we're trying to cover a lot, and I can't ignore Netflix. I can't ignore Disney Plus. I'm trying to be as expansive in my coverage as I can be. I do think that what we're also seeing happen is that there are bridges being built between the smaller and more indie-powered projects and organizations and these larger platforms. And I think that's something that should also be encouraged. When you look at Diallo Riddle and Bashir Salahuddin, the two brothers who did both Sherman Showcase and Southside on Comedy Central, you know, they've been in the trenches for a long time, and they've built up their bona fides until they got to the point where they had two shows on two different networks airing on the same day, which I've never seen Black creators do. I think folks like Lena Waithe and Robin Thede and Issa Rae are all trying to build networks of Black creative people and bring them along so that, you know, when Robin does a Black Lady sketch show, all the actors, all the writers, all the directors can be Black women, which has never happened before in the history of sketch comedy on major, you know, television. So, we want to support those indie outlets, and we also want to encourage the establishment to reach down and find the talent. Whenever they say, "Oh, we can't find the person of color to do X, Y, Z," well, we can say, "Hey, we know 5 people who've done that on indie projects already. You know, give them a shot." So I think it can be part of a system, and I think there are people out there trying to make that happen.
Great. I've got one
about Delroy Lindo.
What's that?
Eric, you were going to say something about Delroy Lindo, and you got sidetracked.
Oh, I was just going to say he's doing a great job playing a Black lawyer, the senior attorney at a major law firm in Chicago on The Good Fight on CBS All Access.
Isn't he leaving that show for something else?
He's leaving that show after this season. But he's had a season where his character was showcased more than ever before. And between that and his starring role in Spike Lee's The Five Bloods, I think he's going to have a lot more opportunities. He'd been on The Good Fight for 5 seasons, and he was ready to move on.
Okay, yeah, let me get in here for a second. I should have mentioned this. I co-wrote a pilot for a TV series about Chicago in the 50s, contract house buying and redlining. And I'm just trying to hook up with a Black person that can in the business that can look at it and give me some feedback on it. Or better yet, get me a showrunner or a star to be in it. So if anybody has any contacts, Eric, I'll get in touch with you offline to talk to you about it, just because
sure.
I know you know stuff. Okay.
Less than you might think, but I'll help.
Yeah, no, right, exactly, right.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Eric, let's talk some geek stuff here. I want to talk about the CW and Eric Berlanti and Batwoman. So you have Batwoman, a show with a white woman LGBT lead. Ruby Rose leaves the show, the lead, and she's now replaced by a Black LGBT lead. Was this about Greg Berlanti, or was this about, you know, what's going on with Black Lives Matter?
Well, I don't know why they chose the actress they chose. I know Ruby Rose left. There's a lot of rumors that she left because, you know, the production was pretty intense, and she got severely injured doing some stunts on the show. And I think there was a sense that the show was not, she felt like the show didn't really have her back when it came to asking her to do dangerous things and the level of work that they were expecting her to do. And carrying a show as the sole lead the way she was is really difficult. So I wouldn't be so, you know, I think it was some combination of all that stuff that led to her leaving the show. On the one hand, it was great to see that they chose a Black woman who says she's bisexual to be the new Batwoman. But when I saw the character description, she's a former drug runner who is living in a van when she becomes Batwoman. I don't know quite how that's going to happen. I've not seen the script. They just named her during the pandemic, so they haven't filmed anything. But you know, that's the kind of characterization that I'm kind of worried about. When you have a character that you're adding to a show, and you have carte blanche, you can do anything you want with that character, and yet, you know, it's a Black woman who's a former drug runner who's living in a van. I'm just like, okay, you have to do a lot to justify, you know, these story choices to me. So, but you know, Greg Berlanti, who is the executive producer who is in charge of and controls all of the superhero shows on the CW and a lot of other shows besides that. He's like an uber producer who has his fingers in all kinds of pies. He's someone who's been a champion of diversity in network television, and has always tried to be pushing the CW to be more diverse. So, you know, I'm hoping when I see it that my fears won't be, my fears will turn out to be unfounded. But I'm not jumping up for joy about the new Batwoman just yet.
That doesn't sound that doesn't sound too pleasing. It sounds more like Ishmael Reed's point. But on the other hand, like doesn't Greg Berlanti has this no tolerance for racism or sexism kind of reputation, because he just fired somebody from The Flash, an actor in The Flash, for some tweets he made. So is this reputation justified?
Well, Greg didn't do that. That was this, you know, I know Eric Wallace, who's the showrunner for The Flash, who's a Black man. And it was basically his decision and Warner Brothers' decision to fire him. So one reason why that happened is because there's a Black showrunner on The Flash, and he had a no tolerance policy for racism.
Okay, Ron Taylor, are you still here?
Can I ask one question with Eric? You did some really good reporting and providing context on the experience of Self-Made, the biopic made off of or inspired by Lilia Bundle's biography
Loosely
of her great-grandmother. Yes, and there were a bunch of Black people involved in the production of that series, and it was still problematic, especially in terms of certain stereotypical presentations of the Black community and the main characters. What was your research? What did you find in terms of how Netflix approached that? What went wrong?
I don't know. I mean, basically, I talked to Alelia and I talked to the executive producers who were in charge of the show. And the sense that I got was the person that they had hired to sort of be the main showrunner came in with a script that just had a lot of terrible stuff in it. And I think there's a sense out there among some people, even people of color who make television, that melodramatic soap opera-ish kinds of shows are popular with Black audiences. And so, you know, something like Power, something like Empire, something like the dramas that Tyler Perry's doing for OWN. And so I think they sort of came to the Madam C.J. Walker, the first woman that was hired sort of came to the C.J. Walker project with a script that was kind of like that, you know, that was trying to kind of make a nighttime soap opera out of the Madam C.J. Walker story. And, you know, Alelia had a bunch of criticisms that she registered. And slowly they kind of pulled back from that. So what you saw on Netflix wasn't nearly as bad as the first script that they showed her. So I think that's basically it. Like they had an approach that was just about not being like a substantive, you know, drama, but being more melodramatic and trying to maybe capture the vibe of the shows that I mentioned before, you know, rather than trying to be a more traditional drama.
Okay, Ron Taylor, are you still here?
I am.
Good. All right. Why don't you ask your question?
Thank you.
After the 50 years ago, after the riots, there was a spasm of black movies, Coffee and Black this and Black that, the black exploitation flicks. And it seemed to me that Hollywood pushed back against that, and then we were back in the woods for a long time. Is there an anticipation of conservative pushback and retaliation for this surge of black involvement right now in the arts and the world of ideas? That question is for Eric.
Yeah, there's always pushback. You know, there's always pushback. So I expect it will happen again. You know, but you know, you can't let yourself be stymied by that. All you can do is push forward, because the further we push forward, then when the backlash comes, that's, you know, we won't, even if they push us back, you know, we won't be back where we started. So I expect to see backlash. I'm sure there's already a bunch of white producers saying, you know, we can't get jobs, you know, there's too much focus on black stories, you know, black people get to get away with X, Y, and Z. That always happens. But we just got to keep pushing forward and being clear about the kind of storytelling we want to see. So I think I'm gonna have to go, guys. It's
well, I didn't mean to run you off.
No, it's not you, man. It's I like I said, I had forgotten that my girlfriend's daughter's birthday is today, and so I had to go join a birthday celebration at a restaurant, but I didn't want to leave you guys high and dry. So
okay, well, thank you very much, Eric. In fact, let's give Eric.
Thank you, and sorry for all of this, but I hope I was able to help a little.
Word.
Hey, Eric, before Eric leaves, could he give us like what's going on at Disneyland? Has he left?
I'm here.
Yeah, like I see you've got.
I'm not at Disneyland. I'm at Disney Springs, and they're asking everybody to wear face masks. You can take them off when you're in a restaurant and eating, but you have to have them on. Otherwise, I would say it's at about 20 to 30% capacity here at Disney Springs, which is an area where there's a lot of shops and restaurants and stuff. And there's hand sanitizer everywhere. They're being very diligent about cleaning things. They have limits on how many people can be inside stores, and they have social distancing requirements. So it seems like they're doing a good job here, sort of keeping people moving and keeping people from being in situations where they can transmit coronavirus. You know, this seems like the way you could do it. If there were more people, I wouldn't be here, but it's pretty sparse, and you can still kind of enjoy some of the stores and stuff. So
Are most people wearing masks?
Everybody is. You have to have a mask to come in.
Oh, good, good.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Stay safe.
All righty. Thanks, guys.
Okay,
All
thank you.
right, thanks, Eric.
I want to get back to Leslie Cruz talking about the people who make independent films and are in that world. How would you define the difference between people who choose that line as opposed to those who want to go into commercial television and movies? Is there a different mindset?
I mean, I think,
Do people make movies about pimps? I mean, prostitutes.
I think most people, for an early career filmmaker, everybody pretty much starts out as an independent, right? Because especially if they want to make their own story, and because they have to, if they don't already have the connections, if they don't already have the financing, they've got to strike out on their own. And so I think there is a bit of a, I don't want to say that's a completely different mindset, but for those that want to go straight into sort of network or like working at Netflix and on those types of programs, there is I think there is a path, the PA, and then you build up and maybe your first AD and et cetera, et cetera. When you as an independent, and I think I'll kind of go back to when I think of some of the documentary filmmakers that we've worked with, Michelle Stevenson and Joe Brewster and, Stanley Nelson, and Yoruba Richin, who I believe just got tapped. I just read this, I can't remember, that she's got tapped to do the Breonna Taylor story. They worked in documentary, but they really wanted to ensure that they had control over the content and the story. And so that's what made them, that's why they pursue projects as an independent, because they want to be in control of the story. When you start moving and you're connected to the more commercial side of the work, they own the work. And they have, they're the ones who influence the story. So, what Eric was talking about in terms of the Batwoman story, if that character, this new Batwoman, is coming from, she used to be a drug runner, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, I've seen this story a gazillion times. Couldn't we have at least, this is an opportunity for them to have a whole backstory that's completely different. Yeah. But if this is what they're going to go for, well, that to me speaks to, well, this is what the commercial, that's their influence, and that's what they want. That's not what we want, and that's not what an independent's going to want. So I think that it does, there's sort of a fine line. And at the end of the day, people want to get paid. Independent producers, they want to work. They want to, get money for their projects. They also are interested in working on other types of projects. So, you can't fault somebody for wanting to be able to sustain themselves, keep their home, put food on the plate, make sure the kids, are taken care of. But it is a much harder road if you're an independent, because you've got to find the money, crew up, make sure you find the distribution, and you're doing a lot of it on your own. But it's mostly because you have this vision of the story that you want to tell.
Great. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else have any questions or comments?
I have a question, Richard.
Yes.
I wondered about the role of the advertisers in commercial projects, Hollywood as well as television drama. I think they're vulnerable right now because of the pandemic, obviously. What do the rest of you think about pressuring advertisers to get them to pressure the creative people as well as the production people on these big productions, big films, as well as made-for-TV films, as well as the sort of the dramas, etc. That's the advertising money is a big source of funding for these projects. Advertisers I know right now are suffering because of the pandemic, but they're still vulnerable. And many of them have come out and said, oh, we love Black people, and now we're going to, get rid of Aunt Jemima and blah, 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 blah. So what can we do to make sure that they're newly found or newly renewed interest in Black people transfers to their support of Black actors, writers, producers, etc.
This is Maxie. I'll contribute an answer to that, not the full. I think a lot of creatives, and maybe Leslie can speak to this, are really moving more towards the public media model of subscription-based platforms, where they're less dependent on advertising. And there seems to be an abundance of cash for productions, because some of these enterprises are really trying to create a name for themselves. And so I would imagine that part of the answer to your question is people are looking at more public media like platforms to demonstrate their work, so that they're less involved with advertisers' critique and concerns around mainstream audience.
Okay.
And Maureen, this may not go directly to your question, but I'm looking at the survey that was done by the civil rights organizations about Facebook. It was 2 years long, and is really damning. And even before that critique came out, you see that there is a moratorium for this month of July for certain advertisers on Facebook. And more than anything else, that has gotten Zuckerberg's attention. So as opposed to looking for different content, but hitting them in the pocketbook that way in terms of who's advertising, where the money's coming from, I think that there is more to do with that. And there's a moment right now where at least some advertisers are willing to at least pull back as they assess what this landscape's going to be going forward. And if it hurts them monetarily, it gets their attention.
Okay.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Okay, anyone else? Okay. Well, this has been ready to wrap up, and thanks everybody. So glad everybody made it. It's been, as I said, if my birthday is coming up, and this is a wonderful pre-birthday party and a gift to have all of you here together. So I think we'll end this and check the chat box, because there's some messages in there and people have given their content. Oh yeah. Yes, and next, go ahead.
My book is Why No Confederate Statues in Mexico. My book of essays, rarely reviewed here, but it's about how Stonewall Jackson, Jefferson Davis, Robert E. Lee slaughtered thousands of Native Americans and Mexicans before they caused a war that cost 600,000 lives. So this is different from the portrait you see these guys in American history books.
Yes. In fact, there's a story in the front page of the Post today about Confederate statues in Brazil. So that's, who knows where all this is, how widespread all this is. Okay, thank you for that, Ishmael. Any last words from anybody else? Okay. Well, thank you very much. You'll all get a notice about the August meeting. We're going to try to plan it when NEBJ is having its own virtual convention. So we'll try to skirt that, and hope to see you all then. Oh yeah, there's more. Okay, wonderful. I'm glad that the notes are coming in on the group chat. So check those out before you leave if you can. And we will record. This has been recorded, so we will have this where people can watch it on YouTube or other places. So stay tuned to your email account. Okay, well, thanks very much. Appreciate it, and enjoy